Oh, all right. Let's see what we can get today. I think normally in a couple minutes is when they do their reveal, and yeah, the reveal is supposed to happen today. Hopefully it's Kayle, but we'll have to see. Please be Kayle, please be Kayle. Yeah, pretty much. Hello, Rivi. Reveal Copium. Yeah. I would be pretty sad if it was Zillion. Like, I think Zillion could be fine, but I think Kayle would be way more interesting, personally. Just started getting into the game when you started streaming. It's been a while. I'm having fun playing more of the game again. Yeah, it is a game that sometimes you just need to take a step back. Like, I'll often go between, like, playing it a ton, and then there'll be sometimes it's like, okay, I'm just going to get the daily stuff done, do whatever I need for content, but not really playing it too much in the background. Hello, LOR Never Die. Oh. Hey, Happy Potato. Hey, Kayle fan. I actually need to check. Do I have any... I only have 10 Targon Nova Shards. So actually, if it is Kayle, yeah, it's not going to be the best. 55 Star Crystals, though. Okay. I have... getting close to that 500 limit. I have Victor 6-star now. He can easily crush Karma and 6.5 ASOL because I pulled Equine a couple days ago. Nice. Now they have a stream title. It won't be Kayle. I'm on vacation. Woke up at a reasonable time for the stream. Yeah, most of the streams this week will be a couple hours later than we normally do. Like, I think the patch notes drop like 1 to 2 hours from now, so yeah, stream will be a little bit later then. If it's Kayle, we'll probably get Targon Nova Shards in the past. We will probably get Targon Nova Shards, but I don't think we'll get enough for me. I think normally we get like 50 to 60, like over half a crystal, but I don't think they're gonna, yeah, get enough. So if I need to buy it, I will. All right, 11 o'clock. Let's refresh. Come on, any moment now. I thought they'd normally do it at 11. Well. 11:01. Not see anything. Sad. I also decided to level Varus last night. Him is very fun, or funny. But what's even more funny is the fact that I could have 2 to 4 Dark Bindings every single turn. Another 30 minutes extended. Maybe. I struggled greatly trying to level Varus on Fizz with doubling dice. All right, I'm not seeing anything, so let's go ahead and look at some relics, just in case we are going to get Kayle. Actually, let's go look at Kayle in-game first and see what we think could work out well on her. Are we just getting one champ? That's what it seems like, yeah. Which is a little sad. All right, so we have Kayle. She's mono region, so she's only Targon. 5 cost. Hello, Real Zahir. Zahir? 5 mana is a bit slow, but for one, if you get her at the 5 stars, you start at 3 mana. Not too bad. Also, there are builds with the Swain Relic and Cost Reduction Relic to be able to play them turn 1. So it's not too bad. Interesting. So I have 1 power for each time an ally attacked with increased power. When I'm summoned, grant allies 1 power. So you do need to both focus on attacking and also buffing up your units. Skins looking fire? Yeah. So anything that lets us attack more or be able to buff up our units more. This also doesn't really depend on how big the units are buffed, because it just says I have 1 power for each time an ally attacked with increased power. This doesn't scale with how much that unit has increased, so you're really going to want to spread out buffs to all of your units and make sure they're all attacking with increased power. So yeah, having some of the 4 stars that increase your unit's power, like the, don't know if it's Reunited, that's the common one that just makes all units have +1 power, or going for the rare one that when you draw a card, you give all of your units 1 power that round. One of those would be decent. But yeah, empowered 6. So when they hit that power, she gets quick attack. When you get her to 11, she's able to level up. Also, this is a round start effect, not round end. Alright, and then we can get Overwhelm, which is really nice. That means we don't necessarily need to get Overwhelm on other items or with our relics necessarily. While that wouldn't be bad to make sure all of our units have it, with Kayle, she is going to be able to do a ton of damage herself, because you can get her to the Empower 16 with double attack, and honestly, getting to her to that threshold could probably be pretty easy. One item that could be really good is Corrupted Star Fragment. Now, Corrupted Star Fragment will be good and bad. The bad side is that you are consuming that unit, and so they are then not going to be able to attack to further contribute towards buffing up Kayle through this like passive effect. But being able to get all those stats on Kayle, especially if it's a unit that has a lot of stats, which you should be able to buff up, it's going to let her get a lot more power to be able to level up and get this double attack. Because double attack and overwhelm is such an insanely good combination. The fact that you can get this baseline is huge. Insane. Maybe stack deck for relics. That's a good call. Yes, stack deck to be able to just buff up all your units. It might not be needed if she does have like the 4-star that is able to buff her units or from her star powers. But if you don't have something that is automatically buffing up all your units to contribute to this, having like stack deck could actually be pretty good. Need your knowledge? With what exactly? Let's go back and refresh. Any relic recommendations to use on Jax? So with Jax, you can go for some that either are selfish or focused on your team. So going for ones that give all units Overwhelm, all your units Challenger. Either of those can be really good. You can also go for Crown Guard on Jax. It is pretty solid. Going for any stat increases for Jax is also pretty good as well. But I normally go for ones that try to buff all your units. So going for like Beast Within, gives all your weapon masters 1/1, gives everyone Overwhelm. That can be really nice. Also going for Challenger, so all your units are getting the best trades, works out pretty well. Pokemon was Kayle confirmed. Allies have +1 is the best power for her, unironically. Yeah, it would be pretty solid. Living Weapon can be solid for Jax. For Kayle, though, while it would be nice to play her early, you don't necessarily need, like, well, All of this is subject to change with her constellation and powers, but since she has such a weak stat line baseline, you could actually try to go for an approach where you are focusing on your units, and by focusing on them, you're able to then buff up Kayle so that when you do drop her, she's already potentially leveled, maybe close to her power 16. Because yeah, dropping her turn 1 isn't necessarily that amazing. Chosen Star, Death's Foil, Found Fortune, Black Shield. If you're talking about Jackson, yeah, those can all be pretty solid. Looks like the first ad is wanting to drop, which, I mean, it's better now than when we're actually looking at Kayle. Yeah, still nothing, so probably either at 11:15 or 11:30, at least my time, we'll be able to see something. Yeah, double attack overwhelm is going to be so good. Her champion spell, 6 cost, which is a bit rough. If you're using echoing, this can go down to a 5 cost. Maybe there'll be some cost reduction in your constellation or starting deck. But given ally can't take damage or die this round, and you're buffing up all your units, it is a very strong spell. But yeah, that is pretty pricey. What's the best way to unlock epic relics? Try to do the monthly challenges every round, or every month. Do the monthly challenges to get a bunch of Stardust, and then you buy it on cooldown from the Emporium. That's the best, most consistent way to do it, but there is a long cooldown time. Hey, Cocaine. We're waiting for the new champion to be revealed. We're hoping and guessing that it's probably Kayle. But yeah, we don't have confirmation yet. Today I learned there are 12 rounds in a year. Yeah. Hello, Jump. Surprised it's Yorick. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even be that upset. That would be interesting. Yeah, we're not really looking at Ari. We're just going to be looking at the relics. All right, everyone should be back. So, Minished, you asked about epic relics. You generally just want to do the monthly challenges every single month. Go as far as you can. This can normally give you a large amount of Stardust, especially once you have all the fragments for Aurelian Soul. And then you just go to the Emporium and you buy the Golden Reliquary on cooldown. That's the best way to do it, but, or the most consistent, but that does have a pretty long cooldown. But there's not really any way around that, sadly. Nothing has been revealed yet. As far as relics, though, big guns, I don't think we're going to want that. I don't think there's really anything that you're going to do for spells and skills. Black Shield, this will be nice. Kayle should be a very unit-focused deck. So protecting your units and make sure they can't get like frostbitten or have anything negative happen to them, that would be pretty good. Cease and Desist, this honestly could be pretty good because there's going to be a high likelihood we play Kayle with that 10 plus power. So this actually is a place. Chosen by the Stars can also be solid. We're going to hit that in power 10. We already are going to be able to get Overwhelm, but having Challenger and Region can be nice. And then Faded and Augment, it's not clear right now how much we'd really be able to trigger that. Now, Targon normally has a lot of ways to trigger Faded. So this is one that has potential. Cruel Experiments, could be okay. Probably don't want the Deadly Harpoon. Death's Foil could be solid to make sure she can always safely attack. Discipleless Shadows you probably don't want to go for. While it's not bad getting her on the board early, you really don't want to be killing your own units because you need more of your units attacking to buff her up. So probably not worth it. Echoing, her champion spell seems like it's going to be very expensive. Like with Echoing, it's just going to be a 5-cost spell. So it is very strong. So yeah, we'll have to see. Making sure you get your Kayle could be nice, but having too many of them would be bad, because if you aren't going for like a turn 1 Kayle build, then you might just fill your hand with Kayle and you don't have anything to play because she's a 5-cost. So for your first couple rounds could be pretty bad. Fear Cleaving Axe. If you have something to give your unit spirit, then it could be fine. Otherwise, probably not worth it. Found Fortune, depend on the deck. Frozen Tomb. I think Kayle's effect is a summon effect. When you play her, she buffs up your whole board. If it's a summon effect, Frozen Tomb could be solid. If it's a play effect, not as good. But there's some potential. Full build, fine. Hidden Tome will really depend. We can't really say right now. Icon, probably bad. Hextech Battery. If we're trying to hit a specific breakpoint for stats, maybe, but probably not. Living Weapon can be okay. Loaded Dice can be fine. We have to have a really good follower to try to use this one. I don't really think of any specific synergies with Oath of the Guardians. Packed Powder could be good to try to get her on the board early and give her some more scaling. Hex Core could be good if we go for Chosen and we want that targeting every time. Portal Pals, probably not. Secret Technique, maybe? It depends on if we have a lot of ways that we're buffing up unit stats with spells, which I don't necessarily know offhand. A lot of her scaling doesn't necessarily come from spells, but if there's a lot in-game, this could be good. Shock and Awe, probably not. Siren's Call, probably not. Spectral Scissors, probably not, just because we want to keep our units alive. Spellweavers, I think Targon's okay. So again, if we're trying to go for Chosen, maybe. Spirit of the Buru, probably not. Stack Deck, this actually could be really good. If we don't have any other way to buff up all of our units, this could be a great thing to just make sure all of our units have buff stats, so every time they attack, they're buffing up Kayle. So yeah, Stack Deck actually could be fantastic. Starforged probably should be able to trigger it with just this and Luminous, because she has 5 health. Strength of Stone will probably be terrible. Alright, did it happen? Okay, it's actually an image now. It is. Come on. There we go. All right. So this is what we're seeing so far. So we know it is Kayle. Fantastic. Also, it's pretty funny how they show you this, and like this does not line up at all. Like the position of the stars, that's not there at all. All right, all we have is Kayle. We have confirmation that it is Kayle, but that's pretty much it. So, fantastic. We actually know that it is Kayle. Great. But back to trying to look at relics, because yeah, so far nothing has changed. They'll probably drop another image soon, and then we'll go back and look at that once they do that. Strength of the Stone, probably awful, because Empower is off of Power, not health. Yeah, fantastic. That's Kayle. Raven Army, you could pair this with one of the cost reduction relics, such as the Packed Powder, right here, to be able to play her turn 1. But again, she has such weak stats that playing her turn 1 isn't necessarily the best. So I don't think it's going to be as important as some other champions that we use it for, such as like Heimerdinger or Victor or Swain. So probably not going to really need it, which is kind of nice. Beast Within could be really good to give all of our units that overwhelm. I don't think Kayle really has any subtypes. I don't think so. Not offhand that I can remember. So it'd just be overwhelm. Twin Drakehounds. I mean, there's so many better relics than this. Blade Wind, yeah. Arcane Comet, probably not going to be worth it. Archangel Staff, maybe. Warhammer, maybe. Duplicator, probably not likely. But that's really going to depend on what we get in the deck. Kayle Silhouette not matching up is the funniest thing to me. Yeah, I kind of figured when they were trying to post all the different champions, be like, oh, none of them match up perfectly. I'm like, yeah, I'm not surprised. That is really funny. Condenser. This could be good if we get Mahira, the version of her that like buffs up everything. Getting a couple of her going to try to buff up more units could be okay. So that actually has potential. Like we said before, Corrupted Star Fragment is a little bit of a mixed bag where you're killing one of your units, which you actually want to keep them alive. But it's also going to really accelerate Kayle's buff. Hello, Clear Wings. Happy Monday to you too. Reminds me of the Swain Constellation incident. Yeah, at this point, you really can't trust the Constellation, what's actually going to look like. Let's see. Crown Guard could be really good. Although her level up is a round start effect. Like, it's better than it being a round end effect, because that just completely kills Crown Guard. But then it's like, we have to make sure it goes off on a round that we weren't going to get it anyways. So it's... yeah, it would be more difficult to make use, or, yeah, get use out of. Dreadwing Chase Gun, probably not. Gale Force, again, probably not. Like, attacking twice is nice, and you could maybe go for a meme build where you're trying to drop her with double attack, but you have to already be leveled for that to happen. Yeah, probably not going to happen. Shade Leaf, you could make it work, but again, probably don't want to bother. Same with Guardian, all of the Guardian things. Heart of Gold. Him could actually be okay. Yeah, being able to double her stats, especially if you wait until she's a bit bigger. You go for a build with him and Hidden Tome or Lost Chapter, where you wait until she's big, you drop her, you immediately double her stats, and then you have just this massive Kayle. That's not bad. Stats could be good. Blade React could be good. Tempest, probably not going to happen. Luminous, just if you're going for Starforged. Riptide, no. Stalker's Blade, like, it's a good general one, but I doubt it's going to have super synergies with it. Star Gem, again, probably not. Succubus Brand, also probably not. Tempest Blade, probably not. Berserker's Buckle, since she has quick attack, you can't get this done as reliably. Bounty Hunter's Renown can be good to give her a whole bunch of stats. Gambit, probably not. Technically, you could go for kind of a meme build where you just have Kayle in hand and you buff her up with all your units attacking, and then you drop her and she annihilates the Nexus. That would be a little silly. Deceiver's Crest, this actually isn't bad because she levels on round start. So she levels and then you immediately get this copy of the spell in hand. So you can really use that to buff up your units and mess with the enemy. So that could be okay. Grand General's Counter Plan, probably not, unless we get some serious cost reduction for her champion spell. Which, I mean, does happen with Ambessa. She got, I think, 2 cost reduction. Yeah, she got like Tear of the Goddess on hers. So it's possible. Gravedigger's Spade, probably not. Probably not. Maybe if you're going for like the Swain build. Transmogulator, probably no. Troll King's Crown, this will be a good rare relic if she doesn't get Overwhelm as her like 4-star. Turret Plane, probably not. Probably not. Yeah, probably not. Wriggle's Lantern, this one has like a little bit more possibility just because Kayle's a 5 cost. There's a decent chance she's going to be sitting in hand and we're just kind of treating her like Vi, where we're buffing her up and then dropping her later. So it's like maybe, but yeah, not that high likelihood. As far as these, Spell Shield could be nice. Probably just going to go for Cosmic Blessings. Spirit and Impact could be good. Rage Blade could be good. Lost Chapter has potential. Chameleon's Necklace. Starchild Staff, so good for just leveling up or while you're going through. Because it helps you get through many adventures you normally would just lose. And then Z-Drive Prototype. Alright, so without seeing her star powers, starting deck, or anything else, I think that's a pretty accurate breakdown for all the different epic relics. Some of them might be more useful based on what she gets, but yeah, I think it'll be pretty consistent. She is going to be, or should be, a very unit-focused deck. Yeah, refreshing, don't see anything. They did reveal Kayle. Kayle just got revealed a couple minutes ago. They didn't show anything about her. They didn't show her starting deck, powers. All they did was say, it is Kayle. Let's go look at some of what her support package would probably be. Let's go for Targon. I guess... Which one did she come out in? The Darkened Saga, that's right. So yeah, Kayle came out there. Divine Clerk, that could be... Yeah, pretty good. Whoever designed the shape of that constellation may not get a raise. It doesn't match her. Yeah, it doesn't match her at all. So this is one that has a higher potential. Celestial Blessing, grant an ally and play your hand Spirit. Also, pretty high potential that that's going to happen. Let's see. Winged Messenger, yeah, 3 cost and power 3 elusive. Good chance that this one's going to be there. Purifying Flames, grant 2 allies in hand 2/2. Possible. Wyvern, I feel like this one's a little bit more mixed, but it does have that Empower synergy. This is the big one. Also, this kind of, I didn't realize this was a 5 cost. So I don't think we're going to be able to use Found Fortune. I think Found Fortune has to be anything below your cost. So it's only going to hit a 4 cost or less. So we can't actually use it to drop our Kayle and immediately bring out this card as well. Coin, yeah, if they have Coin on Mahira, then it'll be really good. That's a very good call. Yeah, if like this is such a just overall fantastic card. Round end, grant allies in play in hand 1/1, so you're getting just scaling for pretty much all your units, but then Empower 10, Elusive, Lifesteal, and Overwhelm. This is such a good card. If we could get like Phage on this, so it gets 2/2, and we get at least just 1 cost reduction, so an Ancient Coin, then that would be massive. This would be much bigger unit. You could actually go for Found Fortune Kayle, so you drop her, you're pretty much guaranteed to pull this card out as long as you draft correctly, and then throw it down and immediately get some more scaling. Yeah, that could be really, really good. Lawkeeper, this is one I don't really see too often. play stun enemies with less power than me. It is a 7 cost, so I feel like that's not that likely, but that would be kind of hilarious to just really buff up this card and then be able to stun their entire board. Yeah, I don't necessarily think they'd go this route, but if they gave this some cost reduction, it could be fun. Otherwise, it's just going to be the first cards you cut every time. Divine Judgment with Chalice. I mean, if they reduce this down to be a little bit more playable, then going for Grand Channel's Counterplan, or going for Echoing Spirit, either of those can be good if this gets like any amount of cost reduction. Yeah, I would doubt Zolani. That would be very interested, but I kind of doubt it. I mean, Kayle's already going to be a lot of people's favorite. I think she's going to be very fun. So yeah, I'm really hopeful they're going to add Mahira. I'm not as sure if they're going to add like Lawkeeper or Wyvern. I think this was probably not that likely. This one I think is fairly likely. Divine Judgment would be nice, but it's always kind of a toss-up of whether or not they're actually going to put the champion spell in the Champion's Tree, or in their deck. Purifying Flames, probably. Winged Messenger, probably. Hopefully Celestial Blessing, and hopefully Divine Clerk. And they're probably going to add in some other random ones from Targon. I mean, yeah, any cards that are going to be able to buff up your units are going to be very good. All right, I'm going to be refreshing here. We're about to hit the 30-minute mark. So hopefully they drop the next part of her package. We're waiting to see if they're dropping... Oh, that looks like it might be it. Yes. All right. Let's go over here. Oh, you are having issues. All right, there we go. Don't know why I was struggling. All right, so we have Kayle, new PvE champion. So we have the Shield Breaker. Can I... no, it's not really wanting to get bigger. All right, so we have Shield Bearer, Daybreak, give me 4 health this round. Winged Messenger, so that's nice. Empower 3 with the Elusive. Blessing, grant an ally 1/2, remove all negative keywords from it. That'll be interesting to try to protect our units. I guess that would also work for, like, yeah, Frostbites. Well, actually, it's keywords, negative keywords. Not negative, like, effects. So maybe just, like, Ephemeral? Alright, Gift Giver. Let's look. Shield Vault, Wounded White Flame, ooh, Sacrificial Scholar, and Blinded Mystic. Alright, so... they're giving us almost none of her cool spells. That sucks. We're only getting Winged Messenger as far as the Kayle support package. Yeah. Yeah, Wounded White Flame again. Huh, that is an interesting deck. Anyways, let's look at her buffs, or her star powers. So when you give or grant stats to a ally in hand, grant a random... ally in play, sorry, grant a random ally in hand 1 power, or the top ally in your deck if there is none. Okay, that's actually really nice. Having that little caveat so that if you don't have any units, your buffs aren't going anywhere. So as you buff units in play, you're also buffing units in your hand. Okay, that's not bad. Divine Intervention, round start, +1 starting mana. Create a Blessing of Targon in hand. If you already have one, reduces cost by 1. I believe the Blessing of Targon is the like 3/3 burst speed buff card. So it's immediately seeming like you want to go for the secret technique, the stat relic. When you give or grant stats to an ally in play, grant a random ally in hand the same amount of stats or the top ally in your deck. So the first one is just, it's giving them 1 power. So even if you give your unit a huge amount of stats, it's still only buffing up a unit in hand by 1. But here, you're copying that buff again. Rush them down. When you summon an ally, give it 1/1 this round. A little bit sad. If you're going to give us a common power for the 4-star, I would have preferred if it was just the +1. So that's... yeah, a little sad. Like, it's something for buffing up stats. Great. Would have probably been nice if it was something that was permanent, because this is just for the round. Yeah, a little bit sad of a 4-star, especially for it to be a common one. Like, if you're going to go common, just give us the +1 power. Mana Flow, get an extra mana gem. 6-star, when you play a 5+ power ally, it deals 3 to all enemies. If there's a 10+ power champion, it strikes all enemies instead. Oh, damn. That's actually massive. That's a really good 6-star. Like, so we're really going to want to go for 5+ power units. So we're able to buff up our units. You're going to play a little bit similar to Ash, where you are using your Frostbites to buff up your units in hand. Ash 6-star. Here, you're trying to play spells to buff your units, get them to that 5+ power, then drop them. And then you're wanting to save any of your champions until they have 10 or more power. It is sad that this is only for champions, because you're only going to get this like once or twice per game. This is not the best 6-star so far. So this is going to be a really big moment. When you drop Kayle, she is going to wipe the enemy board. That is going to be awesome. That's going to be really, really good. But most of the time, you're just going to be getting the 3 power or 3 damage to all enemies. What's over here? Okay, so Kayle's relic. Power, if I'm Kayle, +1 starting mana. I have 1 power for each encounter you've won this adventure. Interesting. So this is just helping you scale up as you go through the whole adventure. So the longer the adventure is, the bigger your Kayle is, and then that means that it's going to be easier to drop her to get the 6-star to go off, but then it's also going to be easier just to level her. I mean, this will be good for Kayle. With this and your 5-star, you can get 4 starting mana. So that alone will be pretty big. All right, so some things to consider. We do want to use Secret Technique, because Secret Technique doubles the stats when we give units stats from a spell. And it possibly is also going to affect our units that get buffed in hand. Alright. When an ally gains stats from a spell, it gains twice that amount instead. This normally, like, it also works for Siphoning Strike, although it won't work for your units in hand because it's still a star power. It's not technically a spell. Yeah, so this will buff your units twice, but it's not going to buff your units in hand twice because the star power is the thing giving them the effect, not a spell. So secret technique, it'll be using when you are buffing your units in play. And then let's look at I think it's a 5 cost. No. Okay, Blessing of Targon. So it's a 4 cost spell. Grant an ally 3/3. So yeah, taking a look at Kayle and her star powers. So we're getting one of those every single round. So going for probably Archangel Staff is probably going to be pretty nice. Archangel Staff to be able to constantly play this blessing every single round. Hopefully there is some cost reduction for this in the constellation, but we'll have to see. Chosen plus Victor Relic seems broken on her. Free scaling each turn. It will be solid, yes. I don't know if that's necessarily the best build we're going to want to go for her, but that is definitely a build if you want to go for more of her scaling. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this plays. Because when you give or grant stats to an ally in play, grant a random ally in hand 1 power. So this doesn't say that it has to be from a spell. So all effects that do this should be able to work. So when we're looking at Kayle, let's try to go back and pull her up here. So for Kayle, when I'm summoned, grant allies 1 power. So when you drop her and she hits all your units, that should then, each one of those times, also be hitting a unit in your hand as well. So that should be pretty good. And then other effects like your Mahira right here, grant allies and play your hand 1/1. That's another effect that should be able to buff up your units. And also for Kayle herself, I have 1 power each time an ally attacked with increased power. That one probably won't work. But we're going to have more ways to scale up these 1 and 3 stars than just spells. Because it's just when you give an ally or grant ally stats. So that the main way we're going to be doing it is spells, probably. But we're going to have other ways to do that as well, and Kayle will be able to trigger this, especially when we play her. Rush them down. I mean, like, I'm giving the devs the benefit of the doubt just because every champion we've gotten so far has been really good. Even when some of the decisions, when we see it without playing it, it does look questionable. Does the 4-star work with the 3-star? When you summon an ally, give it 1/1. I would think so. Yeah, the 4-star should trigger the 1 and 3-star. So yeah, when you buff a unit, I guess that could be the one thing that makes this better. So the other power that we were thinking would just be flat out better is the Reunited. Reunited, it just has it so all of your units have +1 power. So it's not a give effect like this is. Since this is a give, if this works with your shared blessings, then it would be better because now you're giving those stats over to units in your hand. So every time you play a unit, you're buffing a unit in your hand. Really hard to evaluate Kayle from this, and without the constellation nodes, yeah, it's a little bit difficult. The good thing, this is a massive or an amazing quality of life change though, or the top ally in your deck if there's none. There's so many champions in the game that if you don't have like any champions on your board or nothing in your hand, a lot of your benefits can just be completely wasted. So being able to make sure that even if you don't have units, you're still buffing your top deck is really, really nice. So that is great. Thank you so much for adding that one in, because otherwise this could have felt pretty bad. I think the 6-star will be good. So you're going to be able to get a lot of 5+ power units. You're buffing people up with Blessing of Targon. You are buffing people up potentially every time you drop a unit. So hitting 5+ power shouldn't be too hard. So most units you drop, especially in the mid to late game, pretty much are dealing 3 damage every single time you're playing them. That often will be very good. There's going to be some situations in some specific fights, like when you're going up against Howling Abyss, where their champion stats are doubled, and then they might also be doubled by like the Deadly and things like that, where they have so many stats that it kind of doesn't matter. Not good for Inevitable. Yeah, not great there. And then if it's a 10+ power champion, it strikes all enemies around it. Normally, you're probably just going to get this. Like, Kayle is definitely going to hit this. So playing her, having her strike all enemies, that is going to be really good. That's going to be massive. Your support champion, you'll have to hold them in hand until they get buffed up. I mean, you could try to cheese this a little bit more if you go for, like, Oath of the Guardians. So yeah, I think this will be good. I don't necessarily think this is just going to be the flat-out best in the game. When you give or grant stats to an ally and play, grant a random ally in hand the same amounts. Yes, so this will be really good because it's going to have, like, it's going to work in a couple different ways. For one, the very simple one of just, you play a single target spell, target buff spell, it buffs a unit in hand by that same amount. But one thing that'll be a little bit crazy is when you're using AoE spells that are buffing up a lot of your units, then they're all those buffs are also going into your hand. And so if you only have like a Kayle in your hand and you're using like an AoE buff spell that's giving all these units extra stats, all of those stats are going to be hitting Kayle. So yeah, your 3-star will give you a lot. Divine Intervention will do a lot as well. It'll be interesting to see the interaction between this and the Secret Technique. Yeah, we'll see. Have to see how that works, but this should be pretty good. Let's look at the starting deck, though. I'm not the happiest about it. So the Winged Messenger, getting a elusive unit. This will be nice. The Targon's Blessing is 4-cost 3/3 burst. So Winged Messenger, getting this will be nice. Having a elusive to either sneak by the enemy or just having an elusive blocker, great. Shield Bearer, I mean, it's fine. It has the buffed health instead of buffed stats, so it can be a decent blocker. Gift Giver, the gem will be nice. Being able to have a spell to buff up a unit and then be able to buff up our hand as well. Blessing, grant an ally 1/2. I suppose one thing they might be thinking with a lot of these is you're wanting to focus more on the health because you already have other ways to buff up power. Will Redoubled Valor work for 3-star Hymn of Valor? Possibly. They hate giving lifesteal. Yeah, that is true. I was hoping that they'd make an exception for Kayle, but But yeah, having another way to buff up a unit, try to prevent all negative keywords on them. Yeah, Shield Vault, this also is going to be able to scale with your star powers. It's giving you a little bit of control, but we've just seen this in so many other decks. Wounded White Flame, Fury, Faded. Like, the Faded will be nice. I don't think Faded would trigger the 1 and 3 star. If Faded does trigger it, that'd be really good. But I kind of don't think it should. But not 100% sure. If it does, then that's actually really strong. Also, looks like Ad's going to drop. Tried to snooze it for a while, but it's going to go through, sadly. Sacrificial Scholar, 2 cost. So it is a pretty cheap deck. Like 2, 3, 3, 1, and then 2, 2, 3, 4. So Kayle is the most expensive thing in your deck. She'll be cracked if they trigger the star powers. Yeah. Sacrificial Scholar. So it has the Faded, so if that triggers your star powers, that could be good. Last Breath, create in hand copies of the last 3 spells you played on me. So that could be good for some card generation, because then if you target this with like a gem, Shield Vault, your Blessing of Targon, you're able to get some more cards back in hand. Blinded Mystic, grant an ally 1/1, silent enemy follower. It's like, these are fine cards, and I think they'll have decent synergy with the star powers. It's just a little sad, because we've seen so many of these cards repeated, which kind of just gets frustrating as a player. Like, I hate seeing the same cards in starting decks over and over again. We've seen Wounded White Flame at least, I think, 3 times. Blinded Mystic, we've seen this in, like, I think 2 other decks. Shield Vault, we've seen that in a couple other decks. I think Winged Messengers in 1 other deck. Maybe not. Shield Bearer and Gift Giver, like... I think the only 2 cards that are new is the Scholar and the Blessing. Maybe Winged Messenger. Has there been an announcement on the PvP rotation? I don't think they've mentioned that yet. They've said that there's rotation coming this patch, yes, but I don't think they've said anything about it at the moment. But it is happening. They gave Morgana and Kayle similar cards. Yeah. Her starting deck could be so much better, my only complaint. I was expecting more Empowerments unit in her deck, but I understand they want you to draft during the run, unfortunately. Yeah. So yeah, support deck, I think it'll work out fine. It is a little disappointing, especially the fact that so many of those cards are repeated. Now, rush them down. While this is disappointing at first, if this does trigger your blessings, which it does actually seem like it should, then that will actually be a pretty big deal. It's then every time you're playing a unit, you're buffing up your hand as well. That's pretty good. Yeah, let's go look at relics again, now that we actually know what we're kind of going to be looking for. Yeah, it's a pretty cheap deck. Kayle is the most expensive thing. Alright, so Secret Technique. When a ally gains stats from a spell, it gains twice that many instead. This will be very good. You're trying to play a whole bunch of spells, and they're all buff spells that are focused on stats. So doubling that effect, especially the fact that this is a power, so it's just always going off, that'll be really good. When I'm summoned, create a redoubled valor in hand. This also will be very good. It's a spell focusing on buffing up your units. The Echoing Spirit, we did not get anything. Like, Kayle's champion spell is not in her starting deck, so it's probably not going to get any cost reduction on it. So Echoing's probably not as likely. Black Shield, this could be pretty good. Protect our units. Cease and Desist, again, could be fine. Chosen by the Stars. If effects like Fated, like each round, the first time an allied card targets me, grant me 1/1. And then if we look at her spells, when you give or grant stats to an ally in play, grant a random ally in hand the same amount. So I think Fated could actually work. By triggering this, you're buffing up your hand as well. That could be really good. Augment, when you play a created card, grant me 1 power. So if Fated and Augment are also buffing up your deck, or not your deck, but your hand, then Chosen could be really good. Is it you granting, though, or is it the keyword? Yeah, that's kind of the thing. It's possible. Like, I could see this going either way right now. I could see this working with your star powers, or I could see it not working. So we'll see. Death's Foil could be solid. Disciple Shadows again, probably not. Frozen Tomb, this is going to be something you don't want to play if you have Kayle at 6 stars. Because if you have her at the 6 stars, then you're missing out on that massive play effect where she's going to wipe the board. But if you just have her at like 2 stars and you're struggling to get her out, this could be solid. Found Fortune, it's going to pull out the Mystic that silences unit, grants 1 unit 1/1. Which, yeah, definitely not as good as Mihira, so that doesn't really matter. Hidden Tome won't be bad to immediately be able to play a spell, but this is going to work for probably your first and second round, because the first round you drop Kayle, this will go off. The second round she's probably going to level, so this will go off then again because it's a round start effect. So this could be better than Archangel's Staff if you're ending with Kayle in the first 2 rounds. But if you're not, then you probably want to go for Archangels. I kind of doubt that Living Weapon, that all of these effects, like, I doubt the Forge effect is going to hit our units in hand. If it does, then that could be interesting. Oath is something that might actually be good. Being able to drop our Kayle, we get 2 champions in hand. We're able to, even if they're small champions, like, they're getting double their stats, but then we're buffing them up from our star powers. So then we could have multiple times that we're dropping champions that they're just wiping the entire enemy board. So specifically, if you get her to 6 stars, Oath potentially could be good. If you are going to go for Chosen, like, if Chosen is able to work, then Hex Core plus Chosen to trigger Fated and Augment every single round could be good. The Kayle Relic effect, it's +1 mana, and then you have +1 power for every encounter you've won this adventure. So as you're going through the adventure, Kayle is getting stronger and stronger from this. Which, that secondary effect isn't massive. Getting +1 starting mana will be nice, so it's probably going to be worth picking up just for that. But yeah, +1 power. The longer the adventure goes on, the stronger Kayle gets. Anything else that really is looking out right now? Yeah, Secret Technique is going to be very good. Stack deck is still a possibility. We'll have to see how consistent Kayle is at dropping units. If the 4-star does work how we think, and every time we drop a unit, we're also buffing our units in hand, then we're probably going to play similar to Bard, where we're just waiting until our units get buff stats on them, then we're able to play them. Starforge, if you want to go for full mana, you will have to go for like Luminous in order to trigger it. Yeah, I think effects like Swain's Raven Army, you're probably actually going to want to hold Kayle in hand until you can actually end. Because dropping her, especially when you get her to 6-star, she's wiping the board, and then you can just try to attack and do a ton of damage. Hey, Service. Starforged Orb and Kayle Relic plus 5 starting mana, yeah. So it can be pretty crazy. Beast Within, so we don't have any way to do Overwhelm at the moment. Like, Kayle can give herself Overwhelm, but none of our other units have Overwhelm. And none of our powers give Overwhelm. Like, we have a elusive. Yeah, we have a elusive, but no other way to really get around units. And, like, you might be able to get around it with your 6-star if you just can have enough removal, then you'll probably be fine. But otherwise, I think going for Overwhelm with, like, the Beast Within is probably going to be pretty big. The reveal happened, yeah, about half an hour ago for most of the effects. As far as rare relics, Service, thank you for the sub, appreciate it. First opinion on Kayle. I think starting deck is a little disappointing, but I think her star powers are going to be pretty interesting, and I'm just overall really happy that it is Kayle, because, yeah, some of the other things it didn't. Targon needs another champion. Kayle will be a good addition. I think she'll be fun overall, and her star powers are going to be very interesting to kind of figure out, and they definitely have potential. Now, we don't know anything about the constellation, so we'll have to see as far as that goes, but so far she's looking overall pretty solid. I did have a little bit higher expectations, so slightly disappointed than what I was like potentially thinking, but still happy that it's Kayle, and I think it's going to be pretty good. I don't think we're getting another champion this patch. It seems like we're only getting this one. But yeah, Archangel Staff is actually going to be good. Chemtech Duplicator also will be solid, since we're probably playing a lot of spells. So this is just going to give us a lot more opportunity to buff up our units. Again, Condenser probably is not going to happen anymore, unless we really just need to get units in hand. Going for Shadeleaf or going for, I mean, honestly, him wouldn't be bad either. Some ways to buff up your units. So just something like this would be a probably fine rare relic build. We probably don't want to go for Grand Challenge Counterplan just because that's so big, but we are generating a spell every round anyways. The disappointment more comes from the starting deck, not the powers. The powers, the more that I'm thinking about them, like, I was kind of disappointed in Rush Them Down until we figured out that it's probably going to work for the 1 and 3 star. So if every time you're dropping a unit, it's also buffing up someone in hand, then that is actually pretty good. And then these shared blessing, like these powers, it's not really clear what is going to be able to trigger this, because this isn't just spells. It's just when you give or grant stats to an ally in play, there's a lot of ways to be able to do that. Like some cards can do that. Like right here, we just have this one, grant an ally 1/1. So by playing this one, it's very much going to also be buffing up someone in our hand. So that's not too bad. Now, some effects that could make this like broken is, does Faded trigger this? Does Augment trigger it? Because yeah, it's gonna kind of determine if that counts for this, or it's just or if that's just, hey, the keyword is doing this, it's not going to count for the star powers. Yeah, it could be really insane. Yeah, Titanic Wake, that could be another one that could be insane. Like, there's a lot of powers. Titanic Wake is a good one where the bigger units we get, like we start dropping Titanic, and now we're just giving a massive amount of stats to our units. So that would be something that's huge. Also, you can go for something like Inheritance of when one of your units dies, all of that power goes to your units in hand. So there's going to be a lot of effects like that that just give you absolutely massive units. Her powers are great. Deck is a lot of basic target on repeats and a single card from her package. Yeah, that's the biggest thing I'm like somewhat on the disappointed side for. I think this deck will work out well, so I don't think it's bad in functionality. It is just a little bit boring when you're playing with the exact same cards that you've already been playing with for a long time. I think one build I might try is Frozen Tomb Chemtech. Love the power spikes, and Kayle might be decent with it. Yeah, I think both of those can be okay, especially if you don't have the 6-star. The Cleric or Mahira is a little bit broken. A bit, but I didn't think it would be too broken. Does Corrupted Star Fragment work? So, a couple ways that we know it's going to work. I don't know if it's going to count for your shared blessings, but if it's counting for that, that could be pretty good. The one problem is with Kayle, she scales the more units you have attacking that have buff stats, so killing your own units isn't the best in that regard. But buffing up your Kayle even more, and then if those stats also count for your units in hand, then that could be pretty good. Corrupted Star Fragment should work on 3-star since it works on Bard. Yeah, that's pretty good. I think playing with this, once we actually get it in game and seeing all the things this actually works with, this could be an absolutely insane 3-star power. Like, I think it's already going to be good, but yeah, it could be absolutely broken. One thing that we're probably going to have to really work with Kayle is draw, because baseline, we don't really have a lot of card generation here. So this gives us a gem, and then this one right here can create 3 spells. Hopefully we get some draw on some of these units, but the thing I'm kind of worried about is that we're going to run out of units to play. Because, especially with the Day of Judgment, you're going to be wanting to drop a lot of units to keep getting this power, but I think Kayle is going to be one of those champions that you fill up your board and then you kind of struggle with your units actually dying because you keep buffing them up so much. It's kind of like the Poro King issue where you have like a board full of Poros and then you don't really want to replace them because they've already scaled up so big. Now, the one good thing here is with Poro King, you're dropping like a 1/1 Poro, but for Kayle, your units in hand are going to be massive. So you might actually play a little bit more similarly to Volibear, where you sometimes hold Titanic units in hand to drop and have them kill enemy units. So here you might just hold on to units and then drop them when they're going to be able to get a lot of kills. But I think we're going to be running out of units to play potentially. getting some draw on Kayle right now, I think is going to be pretty good. At least we do have, though, the Blessing of Targon, so that we have something to play. Even if we have no units in hand, we can be playing this every round if we need to. One thing we could do, though, is, again, going for a triple Gatebreaker build, where we could have Kayle in hand, have her be our only unit, and then massively buff her up, so that when she drops, she just annihilates the enemy. Suffer from success issue a bit, yeah. The star power says when you give or grant instead of when you increase, so it's probably not that good, or it's just right wording diff. Yeah, that's the thing, is we're really gonna have to see how well this works, because it's not 100% clear what all is going to trigger this. It's not even about the Cleric or Mahira, though those would have been nice. It's more about that it only has the elusive from her support cards. Not even any of her cards. It's the Nasus deck. Yeah, kind of. It's a little sad. That we're kind of only getting the Winged Messenger. I guess the Blessing is one you could, like, kind of say it's one. The good thing, though, is we are just getting another Targon champion, so we're going to actually be able to have someone that we can buff up with all of our Targon Star Crystals, Nova Shards. Everything screams Pantheon. Yes, that is true. I was kind of hoping that with Kayle, they were going to go more for the empowerment route, since that's Kayle's whole gimmick. But here, they're kind of going more for Pantheon with a lot of these effects. And Targon already has some decks similar to this. Like, we have Yuumi that's also all about targeting. Like, this one's technically not about targeting, but it's still about using spells to buff up your units. And you're going to be doing that every round. So the fact that Kayle is also going to be fighting Pantheon for, like, the same playstyle. Yeah, honestly, this could be like a Pantheon deck and star powers, and it would actually make perfect sense. Morgana also loves targeting. Yeah. That is kind of the one thing I'm a little bit more disappointed about. I was hoping they were really leaning into the empowering mechanic, because I think Kayle is the only empowered champion. Like, there's other cards from other regions that also use this gimmick, but I think she's the only champion that this is what she's all about. So I am disappointed they didn't lean into that aspect more. The fact they just made her another buff deck is a little sad, because we already do have a lot of those. So yeah, I think she's going to play well. I think Day of Judgment is very cool. It's just definitely not the direction I thought they were going to go for Kayle. Yeah, Empower was never fully developed besides Kayle release. That's what I was expecting more in Path of Champions. Yeah. I mean, Empowering would have been a buff deck too, but different. I mean, 100%. So I figured Kayle was going to be about buffing up her units. I just kind of thought it was going to be in a bit of a different way than with this starting deck. but we'll have to see. So we don't know what her constellation, what upgrades are going to be in there, because there's a lot of champions that 1 or 2 items in the constellation radically changes things. So we'll have to wait and see what that really does. For one, there's the aspect of support champions. Everyone in their constellation. So they get normally either rerolls or stats as far as like Nexus health. They always have something for support champions. They could go for Stalker's Blade again. They could go for the Corrupted Gatebreaker. They could go for the... what is it called? Scout. Scout could work. They could go for double attack that Gwen has. So there's a lot of options that they can go for with the Star of Legends. Star of Blessing normally buffs up one of their units and gives it a solid item. Yeah, often something about spells. They could honestly do this one as well. Spells you acquire in Adventures of Mana Potion. They could do something crazy where spells you acquire go off twice, have Elixir of Sorcery. Like, they have that for Jace for 6 or higher cost. But yeah, if they do like spells, have Mana Potion or spells go off twice, that could be pretty big. So there's potential for things being still radically changed from what we've seen at the moment. Black Cleaver would be sick. Yeah, Black Cleaver, I don't think they've done that yet, but that I think would make sense. Calling cost reduction on Blessing of Targon. Yeah, that honestly wouldn't be that surprising. And I think there is a champion where their card wasn't in their starting deck, but they still gave it an item in the constellation. Was that Mbessa? Nope, she is Public Execution. I'm thinking that happened, but I also could just be going crazy. Conscription? Yeah, they did have that upgrade. So yeah, here, Star of Wonder, Conscription has Mana Potion, so that is giving you a benefit to something that you don't have in your starting deck. So they could do the exact same thing, because Conscription you get from your 2-star, and then it's being reduced down over here. They could do the exact same thing for Kayle, where the 4-cost spell she's generating gets that Mana Potion. Gotta love items sometimes. Shop has Relentless Pursuit, Rally, Elixir of Sorcery. Yeah, I think this